want to welcome you guys back to another episode of the Jar Sports Podcast that brings you facts and opinions, and you guys, of course, decide if you like it, hate it, or want to steal it. A good 2 days of NFL, a great 2 days of NFL. That first game was amazing. Second game, of course, was amazing. The first game being the Baltimore Ravens versus the Kansas City Chiefs, and it was everything we thought it would be. Of course, we got a little minor rain delay with the weather, but take that away, the game was amazing. And it kind of lived up to what we thought, being, I think, a record-setting opening game. I think at like 29 million viewers, which is amazing in itself because football gets better and better. And for the viewership to steadily increase, that shows you that the fans are tuning in. More and more people are watching. So it's great for the league, great for the fans, great for the sport in general, especially over the time we've been waiting on it. So, this game was amazing. We loved what we seen. Lamar came out, and for the most part, it looked like they came out being who they were. They were throwing it, a little bit in the beginning of the game, but at the same time, he was utilizing his legs. So I think from what I seen in the past, especially with that playoff game that they lost, they decided to say, hey, we're going to use or utilize Derrick Henry as like a alibi in a sense. And we're going to make sure that Lamar runs the ball. I would say my only takeaway from that is it looked at as if they didn't want to overuse Derrick Henry. I mean, there was times he wasn't in the game, and me as a sports fan was saying, hey, you guys got him for a reason. Why is he not in the game? So I didn't quite understand that, but from a coaching perspective, if they were saying we're not going to empty the tank on this guy, it's the first game, things can happen, maybe. I mean, I could be wrong, but at the same time, I'm pretty sure you guys noticed that he wasn't in the game at certain times. Maybe, again, he's new to the playbook, which that doesn't mean anything. You get someone in the offseason, that's the point of learning the playbook. But they did use Lamar's legs. Derrick Henry, of course, is a great blocker, so their game plan was amazing from the standpoint of let's do what we are great at doing, and let's not try to get out here and act like we're this pass-happy team and we're not great at running the ball. And from the get-go, that's what it was. A lot of shotgun in there for the guys just to kind of have Lamar see the field a little more. And then, of course, if nothing's available, he can take off and run. And then, of course, the line is going to block in Derrick Henry as well. I'll tell you this, though. The surprise individual, which honestly we shouldn't have thought it was a surprise, but it was Lively, Derek Lively, the tight end that they had. They utilized him last year when Mark Andrews got hurt, and he came on strong. He kind of reminded me of Ed Dickson. A lot of people was laughing when I said it. Remember Ed Dickson had games. He's a tight end. He played for Carolina in the past. Remember he came in and played some games, and he was kind of athletic looking guy, a little tall. He didn't block particularly well, but he could catch passes. And Lively reminds me of him a little bit, but Lively may be a little more athletic. Now, he's getting the ball more because their offense is kind of based on tight ends and running the ball. They don't really try to do too much of, the deep throws unless Lamar sees them, but it works for them. And Lively came on strong. Even though Mark Andrews was out there, I get it. Tight ends get beat up. Mark Andrews has had a ton of injuries. And I wouldn't overwork him, especially when you got this guy who could be the best tight end on the team going forward. And it's always great to have that secondary option who has been like the top 3, top 4 tight ends for the past 4 or 5 years available at your disposal. You never know. It could interchange. One day it could be Lively. One day it could be Mark Andrews being the best tight end on the field. Regardless of the fact, I like what they're doing, especially running the ball and utilizing what they have instead of overdoing it and overthrowing it and trying to be something that you're not, and not so much trying to, let's say, throw Lamar under the bus, but you utilize your tools at your disposal. He has legs. Derrick Henry has legs. You have great tight ends from what it seems, so you don't have to do what everybody else does. You do what works for you and play smash mouth defense. And that showed. Patrick Mahomes, he was still being Patrick Mahomes, but it wasn't a great game by them as well. But at the same time, I think they knew going into this game, let's not get out of hand. Let's play the way we need to play to beat this team who has an amazing amazing defense. I mean, look, of course, and I'm pretty sure people thought, hey, with the Kansas City Chiefs defense, Lamar will probably throw the first interception, and that wasn't the case. He didn't come out really throwing the ball too much, which was good. They played smash mouth football on the defensive end and running the ball, and of course, it was Patrick who ended up throwing the first interception, which is not surprising. He always takes chances, and it works into his favor because as the game progresses, he gets better. From what I've seen over the years of watching him play, so he's going to take chances to see what he sees out there on the defensive end. That's what makes him so great. He's able to kind of compute, okay, I can't take that chance. I can't take this chance because they either may intercept it, or it may not even be there. And with their acquisition of Xavier Worthy, rookie phenom. He started off he finished amazing, started off amazing. He's going to be a tool that they missed in Tyreek Hill. And not to mention, they have Hollywood Brown coming back off injury. So they're going to have two speedsters, a Hall of Fame, top 3, top 4, whatever you want to call it, tight end, who's a little longer in the tooth. He even looked like it a little bit out there. He made the necessary passes, but that offense is opened up because you have that speedster, Xavier Worthy, out there. And, of course, you have Pacheco, who's running the ball like a new version of Marion Barber. I mean, he's literally running to try to hit somebody and hurt them. I don't even think he wants to run for 20, 30 yards. I think he's good with running 5 or 10 yards as long as he can hit people. And a lot of times as a defender, even though you want to hit people, you don't want to get hit. You sometimes, they don't say it, but a lot of times like, oh, here this bowling ball come. Nobody feels like this right now. Jesus Christ, dude. Just come on, man. And Isaiah Pacheco is one of those guys. He's running hard, and he's running to knock you out. So they have a balanced attack. They have the speed that they once had with Tyreek Hill being gone and Xavier Worthy and Hollywood Brown being on the way back. And, of course, they have that old reliable and Travis, who doesn't, for the most part of the first game, seemed as if he was needed through the entirety of the game, which is a benefit to them because, again, he's going to get banged up through the season, so you want to try to reserve and keep him healthy towards the end of the season and towards the playoffs because it's always going to come down to your vets and the guys that you've been comfortable with through your years. And I don't know how good Xavier Worthy is going to be, but to start off the season the way he did, it was amazing. I mean, in my opinion, I didn't expect him to kind of look so comfortable the way he looked out there, especially playing against the vaunted Ravens defense. You know, that's the thing you got to take into account. He didn't just play against a team that was like, you know, they're a pretty good defense, but they're not a good defense. He played against the Ravens. So that lets you know right there that he was ready. And he looked up film. They studied film, and they knew there were certain things they could and couldn't do against this vaunted defense. And for the most part, he made a name for himself on that Ravens team that they'll have to keep an eye out for if they played him again, which is a benefit not only for the Kansas City Chiefs, but the Ravens, because now he's on film. They know what he can do, and the Kansas City Chiefs know what he can do as well for them. So the Chiefs, even though I honestly thought the Ravens would get that game, and they had a great chance. I mean, literally, likely was a toe, literally a toe from tying the game. But from what I hear, they were actually going for 2. So they were either a toenail, kind of similar to Kevin Durant when they played against Milwaukee in the playoffs. They were a toe or a toenail or a size 14 or 15, whatever you want to say, from either tying or either winning the game or losing the game, especially if they were going for 2 after he would have scored that touchdown. So the Ravens end up losing 20-27, but that's okay. They can walk away, and I always say it's the wins that matter, because you can again say this is what works. They lost again, but I think they found a tool in Likely and said, oh, he might be the guy going forward. So it could be beneficial for them. And hey, these may be the top 2 teams in the NFL. So there's no wrong in losing to the Kansas City Chiefs based off the first game. So the Chiefs end up winning 20-27. But honestly, if you walk away from that game, you don't feel bad for the Ravens. They could have won that game. They could have lost it if they scored the touchdown, because they were going for 2, and they probably would have got the 2. You got Derrick Henry and Lamar Jackson in the backfield, you might win that game. So I would have even leaned towards 70 to 80%. They would have won that game. Again, I don't know the future. I can't predict it, but it would have looked good if he would have at least had a smaller foot. Good game, both teams. Long season ahead. These are the teams, in my opinion, two of the teams that you might want to look out for, at least for now. The next game on the slate was the Friday's game of the Philadelphia Eagles and the Green Bay Packers. Now, if you guys have been following the Green Bay Packers, Jordan Love has looked amazing the last 7 to 8 to 9 games of the season of last year, where I think he threw 1 to 2 interceptions. I mean, he's looked amazing. He's looked poised. I mean, he's been there 2-3 years, so he already has and then he, of course, watched Aaron Rodgers, so he kind of already has the eye of detecting what to and what not to do, when to and when not to run. I think he sometimes gets a little comfortable not taking that chance on running, because when he does, it kind of freezes the secondary or the linebackers a lot. But it just depends on the time. But either way, he looks amazing. So you had the Philadelphia Eagles, of course, with the acquisition of Saquon Barkley. Did he make a difference? Now, I picked the Philadelphia Eagles to win this game. The reason being is because I thought, for as good as Green Bay looked, they're still young, and I think Philly showed that they have the better weapons in the end, and it showed. It was a great matchup from the get-go. You had A.J. Brown and Jair Alexander, the cornerback. A.J. Brown being the wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles. Jair Alexander being a cornerback, superstar cornerback for the Green Bay Packers. So it was going to be a good matchup. The last game they even played, Jair got the best of A.J., where I think he had like maybe 1 or 2 catches, if any. They'll quote me on that, but I know it was a horrible game. So this game was living up to the standpoint of a great receiver, a great corner, and the acquisition of we see a potentially great running back now that he's in a better position to be successful. And boy, did he show it. From the beginning of the game, it was a little bad, though. Jalen Hurts threw a pick right away. So you already had Green Bay having a chance to be in the end zone, and their defense held up. Philly's defense showed. Jalen Carter being in the middle, that Georgia Bulldog boy being in the middle, disrupting things. They had a chance to score, and right away they were only able to get a field goal off that first interception from Jalen Hurts. He looked a little iffy at the beginning, and we were hoping, oh boy, hopefully this is not going to be the Jalen Hurts from last year, who was, pretty much a deer in headlights. He wasn't throwing people open. He was throwing at people while they were open. He basically fell from the point of when he was an MVP the year before. So that first interception, we were a little worried. But their defense held up, prevented Green Bay from scoring a touchdown. They ended up kicking a field goal. So that was a good thing for Philly. Then, unfortunately, the Philadelphia Eagles, they don't have Jason Kelce at the center anymore. So they have a new center. And from what I understand, he's pretty good. He was there last year, but they fumbled a snap. So once again, you had another turnover by the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Green Bay Packers had another chance to score in the red zone. And once again, the Philadelphia Eagles held up, and they were only able to kick a field goal. Now, here's what I'll say about the Green Bay Packers. They have some great receivers, young great receivers. No, I'm not going to say great. I hate to say that. Young, up-and-coming receivers. But I think they are in a situation where they need a receiver that you can go to no matter what. And I think they're still trying to figure that out, because I think if they had an actual receiver that you can say, hey, it doesn't matter if it's double coverage, it better not be one-on-one. If we're in the red zone, we're going to him. And I think they want Christian Watson to be that. He seems to drop too many passes. He had a clear open touchdown that Jordan Love threw to him in the end zone, and he had it in his hands, and of course the DB knocked it out, but it wasn't like that. It wasn't great defense or anything. I just think he doesn't have the hands like that, or at least right now he's not showing it. And I think they want him to be the guy. I mean, I get it. He's talented. You can see it. He has the speed, but for the most part, I think they're still trying to figure out who is the go-to guy, especially in the red zone, because you need that. The acquisition of Josh Jacobs, the running back, I think they're still trying to figure that out, because when they had Aaron Jones, he could run the ball, but he was a pass catcher, and they had Dylan, who was kind of the bruiser. And Josh Jacobs, he's kind of just a bruiser, but he's a better running back than those two. But if you combine AJ and Aaron, I'm sorry, if you combine Dillon and Jones together, they can bruise and catch and run. So I think they're still trying to figure it out with Josh Jacobs. Now, he came on towards the end of the game. He got stronger towards the end of the game, but I think with Green Bay's team, they're so pass happy that I think they don't quite understand how to use him at first. Now, again, don't quote me on that. I'm not a coach or anything like that, but it looked like they were kind of iffy on it when he got stuffed a little bit and were, I would say, just worried about what to do and what not to do. Again, that's not certain, but from a viewer standpoint, it looked like, hey, let's just let Jordan take us home, and I understand. But regardless of the facts, he looked good. He finally was able to realize who I think, in my opinion, his number one guys are Jayden Reed and Romeo Doubs, and then maybe sprinkle in a little Christian Watson, who did catch a touchdown in the red zone. But I think they're still trying to sort out who is going to be the go-to guy. Maybe it is Christian Watson, but I think for the most part they have a lot of fast, rangy receivers, and they need to just sprinkle the ball around and just be unselfish, and I think they'll flourish this year. Now, what's going to be the problem is their defense. Their defense, for as fast as they are, they looked a little timid and soft. Now, again, they were dealing with the big hogs of the Philadelphia Eagles, and Saquon Barkley was amazing. He had 3 touchdowns, 1 receiving, 2 rushing, and he should have had another one had Jalen Hurts not fumbled the ball in the red zone. He might be the acquisition of the off season. For as good as he looked in the Giants uniform those 2 years ago, he looks even better now with a better quarterback, a better offensive play caller, and Kellen Moore, and better receivers in Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. And let's get to A.J. Brown. At first, it looked like Jair was going to have his number, but things changed. Literally, they started to see some things that maybe we didn't see as fans. The strength of A.J. Brown. It was a lot of slickness on the field where they were at in Brazil. So a lot of players had issues with the footing and changing cleats. So I think they started to notice that A.J. could utilize not his speed against Jair, but more so his physique, his physicalness, his catching the ball on point of contact, the strength of his hands when he catches the ball. And unfortunately, that didn't do well for Jair, where he left Jair in the dust and scored like a 60-70 yard reception catch and took it to the house. Again, it was a lot of bad footing out there, and that played into their part. And I do think that ultimately led to the reason why Philadelphia Eagles was able to go ahead and beat the Green Bay Packers. Again, it was a close game. It was 29-34, and you walked away from that game saying Green Bay looks great and Saquon and Philly looks amazing, maybe Super Bowl caliber amazing. But there was a bad injury at the end. It looks like Jordan Love, at the end of the game, as he tried to lead his team, lead the team back down to possibly score a game-winning touchdown, was tackled. And at first, we were wondering what was going on because he was on the ground. Looks like he was thriving in pain. He tried to take his helmet off, so we were worried. I mean, it was his legs. From what the review looked like, it looked like he turned his ankle, but it wasn't bad. But when you slowed it down and you seen the replay, he seemed to dislocate his knee. I don't know how bad that was. We haven't heard anything, but it did look good on review in slow-mo. And we were wondering, like, hey, you didn't really turn your ankle. I mean, minor ankle injuries can hurt, but it didn't look that bad unless it was something torn that we didn't see. But as upon review and after seeing it the next day, his knee popped out of place, which again, hopefully that's minor. They got from Friday of yesterday all the way up until Sunday of next week for him to get it together. Rehab, ice bath, heating, whatever needs to be done, and more importantly, maybe a chiropractor to relocate, get his knee back in place. But hopefully it wasn't anything major, because the sky's the limit for these guys. As long as their defense comes to play and they have to play a little stronger than they did, again, they're going against Philadelphia, so that's no slouch. We have to also measure them up to their competition, and they're probably playing against a Super Bowl contender, if not the number 1 Super Bowl contender. So there's no slouch in that as well. And they only lost by 5 points. So had Jordan Love marched them down and let's say won, we wouldn't even be talking about this. The only thing we would be talking about is how this may be the two teams to beat in the NFC. Unfortunately, we're talking about Jordan Love's injury, which we hope it isn't major because we haven't heard anything come out today. Usually when it's major, it'll be right away. Hopefully it's minor. They got about 7, 8 days to get them in order, but hats off to Green Bay for playing their ass off. I mean, if it wasn't for Saquon Barkley, they probably win this game. And you see the difference between having Saquon and DeAndre Swift. For as good as DeAndre Swift is, Saquon is looking like the other version of Christian McCaffrey. He can catch. I don't know if he doesn't catch as good, but he can catch. And of course, his running. Come on. We know what Saquon's about. So this was a great first two games to start off the NFL season. Both close games, both exceptional playing, both by different acquisitions of, again, Josh Jacobs turning it up late, Saquon taking over the game, Xavier Worthy in the Chiefs game, showing that he doesn't look like a rookie. Derek Lively coming along on the Baltimore Ravens, looking like he might be the number one tight end as the season progresses. Can't wait to see what's ahead, especially with this Sunday coming up. But we'll be locked in. Stay tuned for that. Now, let's get ready for this NFL Sunday slate of good games. That, for most fans, these are the games that we kind of really want to see how it's going to play out. Very, very interesting games this Sunday and Monday. To kind of start off the NFL season. For example, we got the newly revamped Chicago Bears. They looked amazing. They won the preseason. Preseason isn't anything, right? That's what everyone says. And I totally understand. And it's the Bears. When the Ravens were winning the preseasons, they were looking like the best teams. So you got to give them credit. We know it's the preseason. From what I understand, Caleb Williams, he looked amazing in the preseason games, but I think his completion percentage was like 53 or something. So it wasn't amazing, but let's not act like he played a full game. When he was out there, he made things happen. Keenan Allen is a great acquisition. I just spoke on DeAndre Swift. Yeah, he's not Saquon Barkley, but he's better than what they have had. And he's meshing with Khalil Herbert, so they have a 2 running back tandem that can make noise. Cole Kmet at the tight end. They have a great, maybe top 5 offense in the NFL this season. And with the way Caleb Williams is playing, he looks like a vet. He looked like everything was easy to him out there during the preseason. Again, it wasn't the full game. You're not going to play against all the top players. He played against a lot of them, but it wasn't all. But the passes he made, the way he ran the ball, the way he was able to change arm angles, see defenses that early. It's not the season again. I stress that because that's a big difference. But he looked what the Chicago Bears needed. Hope. And potentially a great Hall of Fame quarterback. And I'm saying Hall of Fame because that's what we want, right? That's what the Bears Chicago aspires for. To once have a Hall of Fame quarterback. They haven't had one. I mean, you have to go back to when I wasn't born and say a guy by the name of Sid Luckman. I just know because I know sports, but I mean, that's kind of far. You think Jay McMahon, Kyle Orton, Rex Grossman, Jay didn't come through Cutler. So they've had a lot of mistakes. And this one looks, and even Justin Fields looked amazing at times, but I don't think he's quite as good as the way Caleb looks. Now, a lot of times it doesn't look as good, but that doesn't mean it is as good. And Justin did look good last year. He was running a lot, but he did look good. So Caleb, eye test, looks amazing. And the Bears have a lot of hope. And I would say this, they are playing against the Tennessee Titans, who aren't a great team. DeAndre Hopkins says he has a torn MCL that he did about 5-6 weeks ago, and he's going to try to play. I have no idea why. It must be minor, but he's not going to be 100% unless it's all a ruse and he's doing that just to lie. Whatever. I mean, if you're trying to take advantage of it and have teams not relying on it, and maybe they'll say, hey, we got to worry, we don't have to worry about him as much. Hey, then Tony Pollard at the running back. So, they don't really have a chance. I don't see the Titans. Now, they always, for some reason, has a great defense. No matter what, they always have a great defense. So I think it's going to be a good thing for the Bears to play against a team maybe not as fiery on the offensive end, but pretty good on the defensive end. But I do believe starting the season off for the Bears is great, because if they go against somebody that's extremely good and they lose or get stomped, then you have fans saying, oh, here we go. So they're not going against it. They're kind of getting their reps up against a team that isn't really that good. We don't expect them to do nothing, so we can kind of see maybe the offense stand out from all facets, to the receivers, to the tight end, to the running backs, and more importantly, how good Caleb's going to look on his first game. So a lot of people are going to be watching that game because they're a fan of football, not just the Bears, but quarterbacks, and Caleb looks like one of those ones. So I expect that to be a good game, a good season opener for the Bears, but we'll see. Another game on the slate, we have the Houston Texans versus the Indianapolis Colts. Now, you can look at the game and say the Colts. Anthony Richardson was playing really good last year. He got hurt. The Colts beat the Kansas City Chiefs last year, who won the Super Bowl. Things changed with the Colts. They had injuries. More importantly, their rookie quarterback, Phenom, looked exceptional. Now, he runs a lot, and he has to understand the NFL has all pros that are fast and as strong as you, if not stronger. Relax. But they did look good. Now, on the other hand, we probably have the best offense in the league. CJ, Nico Collins, receiver. Tank Dell, receiver. Stephon Diggs, receiver. And for some reason, they were able to steal Joe Mixon from the Cincinnati Bengals, running back. Oh, I didn't mention Dalton Schultz at the tight end. So they have every position covered, and a phenomenal first-year quarterback in C.J. Stroud, and everybody's on the bandwagon. It scares me a little bit, because when everybody starts to see something in this one season, things take a turn, but I'm hoping, because I'm a huge fan, I'm hoping that it's everything we want it to be, because with this offense, sky's the limit. So now we would see not just Mahomes doing this thing, Lamar doing this thing. We will see another up-and-coming quarterback with great receivers, great running back, good tight end. Make it a competition. Make it not a one-way street for Mahomes. That's what we're about as fans. Competition. Yeah, we want to see our teams win, but if they're winning so much, you get bored. Unfortunately, that's the way it goes. So we want to see how it's going to be, who's going to show up, and more importantly, who's going to make it tougher for the guys trying to win a championship again. More importantly, Kansas City trying to three-peat, for God's sake. Oh, my God. Yeah. So look out for the Texans. And more importantly, do not sleep on the Indianapolis Colts, because if they were anything like they were the first part of the season, they could be a sleeper team. Watch out for them. Next game that a lot of people are interested in seeing is the Pats against the Bengals. Not so much for the Patriots. Now, again, Bill Belichick is gone, so a lot of people want to see how the new coaching is going to go. But more importantly, the Bengals have issues. Their running backs, Joe Mixon is gone, as I spoke on. Jamar Chase may or may not play because he's waiting on a contract that he could have waited for next year, because it's not even up, but he's trying to get paid. I don't blame him. Things happen in football. Get your money. And T. Higgins, he may or may not play because he's questionable. It's not looking good. For as good as they looked the last 2 or 3 years, the problem is they've missed out on so much time because Joe Burrow has been getting hurt. And when you get hurt as a quarterback, remember, contracts are starting to expire and people are going to be wanting to get paid. And I think they've missed 2 years, 2 good years where they had chances when they had the defense and the offense to match wits against Kansas City or Buffalo at one point in time. I mean, they went to the Super Bowl, for Christ's sake. They beat Patty Mahomes, for Christ's sake. But that's when everybody was there. I don't know how things are going to pan out, so I think for most fans who are interested to see how it's going to play, if the receivers are even going to play. And how is the running back going to be? And more importantly, is Joe Burrow still that guy when there's dysfunction going on between your receiver who hasn't gotten paid and your other receiver who know he's probably not going to get paid, so he's probably going to just wait till next year to turn it up, or he's going to be a little selfish because he feel like he should get paid, but he didn't. So it's going to be a trying year. Meanwhile, you have the Patriots who are trying to figure out who they are. So I think as a fan, we'll be watching that just to see how things play out for the Bengals, because we know when they're on their A game, they can play as good as anybody, but they don't have everybody they had 2 or 3 years. So, ladies and gentlemen, don't just think they're going to be who they are. Things have changed. In the NFL, things can change really fast, especially if you lose players and players start to sit out and they don't have the conditioning. And you can look up week 5, they won 1 game and they're still trying to figure it out. So we'll see. A next interesting game is going to be the Cleveland Browns against the Dallas Cowboys. Now, if you guys remember, I was on the Cleveland Browns bandwagon last year. They looked good. They looked real good. Myles Garrett, best player, defensive player in the league, especially now. I don't know this year because it's all season by season with the NFL. He looked real good. Their defense looked real good. Deshaun didn't look real good, but he started to play a little better. He got hurt. Nick Chubb got hurt. Thanks, Minkah Fitzpatrick. So they were pretty much scrambling to get a running back in order, a quarterback in order. Oh, and not to mention their tight end, Njoku, face caught on fire. So he survived the fire to finish the season out and played pretty good, might I add, while they were dealing with injuries from Amari Cooper, who had injuries. Deshaun Watson was out for the season. Nick Chubb out for the season, and they still managed to make the playoffs, and they were beating teams that they shouldn't have won while they were going through the injuries. Fast forward to this year. Everybody's healthy. Deshaun said he feels the best he's felt. You know, they always say that. But more importantly, we need him to get back. I mean, here's the scary part. We don't know if he's going to be that same Deshaun Watson. Because if he is, the league's in trouble with that offense and defense. Him and Patrick clearly would be the best the best quarterbacks in the league if he was. I mean, they were calling him the Michael Jordan of the NFL in Houston when he was doing it with DeAndre Hopkins and nothing else. So I don't know if he's going to be that. I wish he would, because it's not just good for Cleveland, it's good for the NFL, because Patty's so much head and shoulders above everyone. I mean, even though we love Lamar, Patty's head and shoulders above everyone. If Deshaun can beat Deshaun, it'll be somebody right there, if not right under him, if he's that Deshaun. Here's the good thing about Cleveland. He don't have to be that 100% Deshaun. If he's 80% of that guy from Houston, they're scary. Between the offense and the defense, yeah, Nick Chubb unfortunately isn't back yet because he tore everything you can think of in his leg. He probably even had, everything, MCL, ACL, a rubber band. Everything in his knee was torn out because he was hit so wrong, in my opinion. So he has about, 3 to 4 weeks to return back. But in the meantime, they have Jerome Ford, who came on very well. He was able to step in, and he's not Nick Chubb, but he gave them the running game they needed. And Joe Flacco, old man Flacco, they grabbed off the couch and they were able to sustain the defense and the scoring to get in the playoffs. Now, in the playoffs, they got steamrolled. Because in the playoffs, it comes down to your best players, and they got steamrolled by the Houston Texans. It came down to Flacco against C.J. Stroud. Flacco used to be playoff Flacco, but he was probably Papa Flacco before they grabbed him off the bench grabbed him off the couch to come in and take Deshaun's place, and it showed. For as good as Jerome Ford ran the ball, he's not Nick Chubb. And the defense didn't look good at all. Myles Garrett was nowhere to be seen, and I'm a Myles Garrett fan. He was nowhere to be seen in that playoff game. So they have the potential, if everyone's healthy, to scare a lot of teams. And I think the league knows that now after last year. But if Nick Chubb has 4 or 5 weeks, we just need Deshaun to be 80, 85%, and that defense to be what it was last year, and they're good to go. They can let Nick Chubb rest up. let Jerome Ford take over until he gets back. And more importantly, when he gets back, they'll have a two-headed monster. It could be serious for the NFL if Deshaun is 80 to 90% of the Houston Deshaun Watson. Now, let's get to the Dallas Cowboys. I know everybody was like, what about Dallas? What about Dallas? Dak Prescott wants to get paid. CeeDee Lamb finally got paid. Michael Parsons wants to do a podcast during the season. How did that work out for Brandon Marshall when he was on, I think, Inside the NFL on HBO? It was hard to maintain, and of course he had to fly to places. Michael can technically do it while he's in Dallas. But man, in my opinion, you have to focus on who you focus on. When you playing football games and you give opinions about teams right after you play them or before you play them, or let's say if you meet them in the playoffs or whatever the case, that stuff can come back to haunt you. Reason being is because you're playing a game. Let's say you win or lose, and you get up and make a podcast during the week about teams that you might play. I mean, you're giving them ammunition, for Christ's sake. So, in my opinion, it's all about focusing. Now, I know everybody's trying to be a personality podcast like myself, but I'm not playing professional sports. But I just think you sometimes lose focus on the little things. I wouldn't worry about talking about teams, especially if I would play them. Like, for example, if I played or anybody played and I knew teams I was probably going to see in the season, I would probably lay off them. The reason, unless, it's a team I wasn't scared of. But you have to be careful because you start to critique them, and now your ammunition. You're getting blocked extra harder. You're getting chipped extra harder. You're even getting blindside blocks extra harder because you're saying what this team is and isn't, especially if they lose a game or if they're in your division. You're critiquing them. Of course he's going to say Dallas Cowboys are better than Philly, and his mind may not say that, but his mouth will. So now he's going to make up things, or he's going to look at them and say biased opinions that don't make sense. Because if he be truthful, what he's going to say? They're better than us, or Saquon's better than our running back, or their wide receiver tandem is better than our. You can't do that. You're going to be talking about your team. You're going to be talking about your quarterback, your receivers, your defense. It's too many negatives with this podcast thing if you're playing, especially if you have to critique the teams that you may play against. So Dallas, there to me, now that doesn't mean anything. A lot of times when you have adversity, you play even better. So I'm not counting them out. And honestly, with Nick Chubb not playing, I don't know how Deshaun Watson's going to be. They may even beat the Cleveland Browns, and I wouldn't be surprised if they did, because they're still good. Dak is still great in the season. It's the playoffs where he struggles at. So we'll see. We'll see. Now we have a really good night game. It's the reunion bowl in a sense. We have Jared Goff returning to play against his old team, the Las Vegas Rams, and we have Matthew Stafford returning to Detroit for a reunion, but it didn't quite end bad with Matthew. Jared Goff, he got let go. It pretty much was a trade in a sense. He wasn't Sean McVay, which is the head coach of the Las Vegas Rams, felt like Jared Goff wasn't the guy. I mean, let's call it a spade a spade. I mean, at times he looked amazing. At times he looked like he was good, but a lot of times he looked a little timid, scared, especially when the playoffs came, which was evident when, if you guys recall, they went against the Patriots in the Super Bowl, and they pretty much didn't score a point. I mean, this was a high-powered offense. At the time, Todd Gurley was an MVP candidate. They were looking real good. And a lot of people might have even picked them to win a Super Bowl. Of course, the Patriots always win, so you can't be mad if no one picked them. You can't be mad if most people said the Patriots will find a way. But they, if I'm not mistaken, were the favorites. Either way, it was a low-scoring game. They didn't score, and the Patriots won pretty much off one touchdown, which is insane considering how good the Rams were that season. And Jared Goff just played timid. He looked scared. And I think it got to the point where Sean McVay, the Rams coach, had to make a decision. Was he going to go forward with Jared Goff, or was he going to take a chance on a highly talented, pretty much stuck in fucking the Bermuda Triangle, Matthew Stafford? A little older in the tooth, but as far as talent goes, everyone knows he can throw any ball, sidearm, no look, from Aaron Rodgers to Caleb Williams, they all know how good Matthew Stafford is. Now, he might have not won the games, but they know how good he was. So he had to make the organization had to make a decision: trade Jared Goff for Matthew Stafford, and we have a chance to win a Super Bowl. And that's what they did. So Jared Goff has something to prove. He wants to prove that I know you guys won the Super Bowl, but I'm still the better quarterback. And the way I was let go was pretty much you guys giving up on me, even though they won. Matthew Stafford, on the other hand, it's a little different. He's going to reunion. He's been with them. He's really not going there with any animosity. He's just going there with the belief that Detroit gave me a chance to be successful, and I was. But at the same time, he probably wants to prove, hey, Jared, I'm still better than you, regardless of the fact. So I know you have some issues. I don't, but they made the best decision, and they made the correct decision. So it's going to be a good game. You have top offenses. You have Amon St. Brown, a top-tier, top-5 receiver against Puka Nacua, who you can argue is a top 5 receiver. And I didn't even name Cooper Kupp, who's had injuries over his time, but we know a prime Cooper Kupp is top 2 receiver in the league, even with the talent today. Not sure he's that guy with those hampered injuries he's had, but you still have that offense with those 2 weapons with Matthew Stafford throwing them the ball, and a premier running back, up and coming Kyren Williams, who can run the ball. And you have Jahmyr Gibbs, and you have Amon St. Brown over there on the other side with Detroit. So it's 2 high-powered offensives. Pretty good defenses, not great, but pretty good defenses. But we're tuning in to pretty much watch who's going to be the better quarterback. More importantly, who's going to be the better weapons utilized in that Sunday night game. So I'm interested, as well as you guys are interested in watching that, because I really want to see, number one, Matthew Stafford. He is a little older. What he's got to prove, and Jared Goff is going to be on a mission, because if you guys remember, had Jahmyr Gibbs not fumbled the ball, they probably beat San Francisco, and it may have been the Detroit Lions in the Super Bowl, and they might have beat, dare I say it, the Kansas City Chiefs. Not for sure, not certain, but they got the requisite weapons to make it a problem for the NFC and the NFL in general. So it's going to be a great game to tune into. I'm going to be locked in. Hope you guys be locked in. That's going to be a good one. Yeah, I think high-powered offense. If it turns into a defensive game, that'll be a little downer. But if you're true football fans, that's okay. But I expect to see some explosions on that game, for real. Now we have the ever so long awaited, but much anticipated debut, hopefully, of Aaron Rodgers. The New York Jets will go against the San Francisco 49ers on Monday Night Football. An exceptional way to end the first NFL weekend. You just got a lot of stories behind this one, right? You got Aaron Rodgers returning. He's supposed to debut last year. He gets his Achilles torn in literally like the first or second play. I mean, how much bad luck can you have as a New York Jets fan, as an Aaron Rodgers fan, as a football fan? And we all know the Jets defense is amazing. Top of the top. But their quarterback play has been worst of the worst. I mean, Pat White, Zach Wilson, just horrible. Now you get this guy, Hall of Fame quarterback, arguably the most talented quarterback. You know, of course you say Pat Mahomes, obviously in there, Dan Marino's of the world, but Aaron is always going to be in the most top talentedest quarterbacks, not the winning, most talented. Even longer in the tooth, he still can throw the ball. So you get to see him with a defense and weapons that he has, from the running back to the receivers. They even went and got an extra receiver in Mike Williams, and other receivers have another year under their belt. The defense has another year under their belt. So now, and in a sense, Aaron has a year under his belt with the Jets. Even though he didn't play, he got to see some good things on the sideline for a whole year to kind of recognize, versus even when you come in the offseason, it could be a little faster, a little different, but he get to see a full season of how they work, because he's in the environment the whole time. That team will go against a Super Bowl favorite in the San Francisco 49ers. weapons. I mean, it's almost weapon for weapon, right? With the exception of the quarterback, and that's based on if Aaron is still Aaron. Brock Purdy has been playing the right type of football for San Francisco 49ers. He didn't particularly play bad in the playoffs. He wasn't super great, but he wasn't super bad either. He's played the right way for the team. You got everybody paid. Ayuk got paid. Trent Williams got paid. Here's the problem. Their defense, as much as I mean, you talk about Nick Bosa. I mean, you got Fred Warner. They don't have Dre Greenlaw, and I don't think that gets talked about a lot. Dre Greenlaw is kind of like Fred Warner's NaVorro Bowman. If you think about when Patrick Willis was with the 49ers, for all you football fans, his guy was NaVorro Bowman. They were great in space. They could tackle. They were smart on defense. And then you think about Lance Briggs and Brian Urlacher. Same thing, right? The two tandems are amazing together. Not saying they're not good alone if you just put Fred by himself or Urlacher by himself or whatever the case, or Patrick Willis. But when you have two guys that are almost equally as talented and as smart, that makes the defense even better. And they lost Dre Greenlaw in the Super Bowl because for the most part, the first half, they were pretty much controlling the game. It wasn't a high-scoring game because you had both of those guys in space tackling, paying attention to the run, paying attention to the pass, being able to cover in space. Those things make a difference. Dre Greenlaw gets hurt celebrating, and you have to shuffle and figure out your defense against the best offensive guru, more than likely, that's ever coached and possibly the best quarterback that's ever played the game. How the hell you expect them to win? It isn't like they have a quarterback that's on par for Patrick Mahomes. They got a guy who's serviceable, who can make some good throws, but he is a system guy, and that's pretty much okay. That works as well. And now you have a defense that's with one of their best players, and I didn't even mention Hufanga, who was out in the season. So everybody's back, but with the exception of Dre Greenlaw, you just wonder if that's going to hurt them through the season. Now, it may not. And hopefully if he comes back, when he comes back, he's healthy, because Achilles aren't the best things to recover for, especially if you're a type of defensive player he is, who's always flying around, who's always anticipating things. It's different now. Surgeries, medicine. Achilles is an Achilles, regardless of the fact. So hopefully he returns, but we hope this doesn't hurt their Super Bowl aspirations this season, because you never know. You got the Jets on the other hand as well. Everything looks good for them. I mean, you have the running back, you have the receivers, of course you have the defense. Everything looks right except for you're in the AFC. You're going against Patrick Mahomes possibly and Lamar Jackson possibly, and we don't know what the hell's going to happen with Joe Burrow. Not to mention C.J. Stroud. You have a tough AFC that you're going to go against, but you have the weapons to do so. Mike Williams is a problem. For as talented as he is, this man is always hurt. I mean, paper thin. I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, he always hurt, but he's so talented. If he can stay healthy or be put in a position to be successful, maybe Aaron does that for him. Maybe he takes less hits with the throws Aaron gives him. Of course, you still have Garrett Wilson from last year, so he's probably going to be hopefully the number one, unless Mike is just that guy, which he is proven to be. Either way, you have spoils on the offense and the defense that you can make work for you if you're Aaron. You just have to stay healthy, number one, and be, like I said about Deshaun Watson, 80 to 90% of the Aaron Rodgers we know you could be. Maybe even 70, because they had 0% of anything the last 2 to 3 years with a stout defense. This game could be, dare I say, a potential Super Bowl preview. Maybe that's a little too far, I know, whatever. But you just look at the potential from both teams, you wouldn't be mad that I said that, unless you're just biased and say, oh, it's bad. I get it, trust me. But in football, anything could happen, and they have the defenses and the offenses to meet up. Wouldn't that be something? If this is a Super Bowl preview, I wouldn't be mad. But I think we probably will want to see Aaron go against those heavyweights in the playoffs. That may actually be our Super Bowl, seeing that we've seen San Francisco so much. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to this game. I wish I could be at that game, because there's so much behind seeing how Aaron's going to look, how the defense is going to look now that they don't have to be on the field the whole game. Is Garrett Wilson going to emerge as a top 5 receiver now that he has the quarterback to get him the ball like he deserves? Mike Williams, is he healthy? He's always looked like a top 10, top 15 receiver when he's healthy. We don't know. We don't know. And more importantly, how San Francisco is going to be without Dre Greenlaw. Is the offense going to continue to roll now that everybody's got paid? Are they going to have gaps in the defense with Dre Greenlaw being out? Fred Warner's always going to be Fred Warner as long as everybody stays healthy. Now, Nick Bosa, is he going to get back to that sack artist that he was 2 years ago? He slowed down a little bit with a little hamstring injuries last year, but he was still a force to be reckoned with. This team is still capable of being the Super Bowl favorites out of the NFC. Only time will tell, but I'll tell you this. Both of these teams have a good competitor across from each other that's going to help with them going in the season. Whoever wins, and let's say it's always a loser, right? They both can walk away from this game like, hey, this is the best of the best. And if it's a close game, they can accept the loss and say, if we can play with these guys, and I'm talking about both teams, then we have a great chance against anybody. Because, again, this is a measuring stick for both teams, especially the Jets. We know what San Fran can do, but especially the Jets, now that they have the guy, one of the guys. So we'll see. I can't wait. Great football weekend. It already started off with Thursday and Friday. We've had some great games. Hope it continues until Sunday, all the way up until Monday. With that being said, I want to thank you guys so much for continuing to watch The Jar. I'll keep pumping out good information for you guys, factual, opinionated information. And of course, I'll have a post-game information on all the stuff that happened over the Sunday and Monday of football. Until then, thank you guys for watching The Jar. I'll see you soon.